Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Outliers YouTube and podcast series. I'm your host, DP Lyle, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Kathleen Antrim.
Hi, everybody, and thanks, Doug. We are really excited. We've got great interviews for you today. We have two collaborators, and boy, have they got like a wealth of information and expertise. We've got Michael Varma. He is a magician and has collaborated with John Gaspard, who we've had on before. And John is a screenwriter and a novelist and a director and et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to learn more about how these two got together. But as you all know, one of the first things I always like to ask our guests is about their childhood. Now, we've delved into John's childhood, so we're going to dig into Michael's. Michael, what we'd like to know is how do you feel your childhood contributed to you becoming a writer, if it did at all? Were you a shy child? Were you an outgoing child? Were you an athlete? Were you a bookworm? Tell us about it.
Excellent question. I do know Doug, and he's going to say, Michael, shy? No, I was never a shy child. I was always out and about. I'm the baby of the family. So there's my older sister who took care of training our parents. Then there's my brother, the middle child, and it was Steve, 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 and then came Michael, and they just let me run amok and do whatever I need to do. So as far as becoming a magician, my mother, I can credit her to me becoming a magician. I had a little Matchbox racer car, those little metal die cast cars. And I remember going up to her, Mom, 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 look. And she said, yes. I said, see this car? And she did. Close your eyes. She closed her eyes. I took it and I threw it over my shoulder. I broke a lamp. And then I opened up my fingers and I look. And she goes, oh, you're quite the magician. And I went off to run and play. She never said anything about breaking the lamp or anything. But from that point forward, I knew as a magician. Every day she gave me a book and a deck of cards, something less lethal that would have less destructive powers. And I would just I would still to this day read any magic book and just pick it up right away. As far
So,
as
how did you end up becoming a writer?
as far as writing, I was always interested in stories and magicians. There's always a little pattern that goes with your card tricks or your coin tricks or whatever you're doing. And I got into that and saying that's kind of fun. And over the years, I remember I loved to read mystery novels. I loved to figure out a puzzle. And I remember one time I read this novel. I'm like, well, this can't be that hard. Let me see if I can write a novel. And I found out it can be very easy or it can be very hard. It's whatever your mind makes it, whatever you think it's going to be. And I wrote a couple stories and then finally put together a mystery novel.
Now, was there anything about your childhood who led to the writing part of it? Did you read books back then? Did you have imaginary friends?
Imaginary friends. I think I probably did have imaginary friends, and I always
You
did
made them all
read.
disappear.
Yeah, they would disappear and reappear, and I'd make them appear. Um, yeah, I just had a creative imagination, and I'd always read. So whether it's kids' books or adult books, or I can still to this day pick up a technical or a magic book or a technical book, and I plow through it with no problems. And I thought I had more of like a reading disability because I never really got into reading other fiction. Turns out I just wasn't really interested in into those stories. I think one of my first stories was Clive Cussler and Night Probe, and I read that. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of fun. I just read that cover to cover rather quickly, and realized, okay, I like action adventure. I like mysteries. So everybody has their niche, whatever they like, and go from there.
Now,
So,
most people who aren't in Southern California may not know exactly what the Magic Castle is, and that's relevant to everything we're going to talk about today. The Magic Castle is like ground zero for magicians throughout the world. Can you tell us about that? How you became a member, and it's really one of the greatest places on earth. It's spooky and classy and cool.
It is an actual castle in the Hollywood Hills, and it's a club for magicians. It was actually going back in time. It was created back in 1901 for an actual castle for an industrialist, and then after he passed away, the castle remained vacant for several years until Milt Larson came along, found the castle, and turned it into a clubhouse for magicians. And the first 7 years, it was just him and his friends showing magic tricks. And then they decided, let's open it up to the public. And like you said, Doug, it is the premier venue for entertainment, for live entertainment. You go to this castle and you go from room to room to room. In each room, either a small room, which would be the close-up gallery, or the largest room, the Palace of Mystery, is where you get to sit down and see a live magic show. And it is truly the best place in the world for magicians. And there's the inner circle in let's see, in London, England, and I think John knows more about that. I have not been there. I'm constantly up at the Magic Castle, and I think John's been actually to the inner circle.
Yeah, that's actually the Magic Circle, which does have an inner circle that you can join. I'm not a part of the Magic Circle, but yeah, the Magic Circle is sort of the British equivalent of the Magic Castle, except they are open to the public far less frequently than the Magic Castle.
And
Yeah.
that kind of goes into, I'm probably jumping ahead of some of your questions, but I remember reading one of John's books. I was reading a series and he had one that was the Magic Circle. And I'm like, wow, that is fabulous. And I remember emailing him, because I'll email anybody out of the blue and say, hey, have you ever thought about doing a story at the Magic Castle? Has Eli Marks, his main character, has he ever come to California and visited? And I pitched an idea to him. I actually had written a novel that didn't necessarily go as far as I wanted to, and said, hey, John, would you be interested in this? And I was very fortunate that he said yes. He liked the concept and the idea.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
John,
how you
tell
guys
us
came.
about Eli Marks.
Yeah.
How did this come about, and what are
Sure.
his stories about before we get to this one?
Okay. I'm not a magician, but I know more magicians than most people. And I have, in my corporate life, was a writer of videos and producer of events for 30 years. And then in my spare time, I made low budget movies. And as I got older, that got harder to do because low budget means no budget, which means carrying all this gear yourself. And I got too old for it.
Right.
So I started writing novels and I wanted to do a series. And since I knew so many magicians and they were all so interesting, I thought, oh, that's a way to go. So I had to spend about a year learning what it's like to be a magician. I only learned one trick during that time called the ambitious card. It was taught to me by an amazing teacher we happen to have here in the Twin Cities named Suzanne. But from Suzanne, not only did I learn what the ambitious card was and how to perform it, but I learned in talking with her what the life of a magician was like. And that became the basis for Eli Marks. Eli is a 30-ish, somewhat neurotic magician. His uncle Harry Marks is a very, very famous magician, a very, very skilled magician. And their relationship is always that of, I always compare them to Frank Sinatra and Frank Sinatra Jr. That no matter how good Frank Sinatra Jr. is, he's always going to be compared to the guy with a similar name. So each of the first 9 books uses a magic trick as its title: the ambitious card, the bullet catch, the miser's dream. And one of the most frequent requests I would get from readers like Michael, although not all my readers are magicians, most of my readers are mystery fans, but was, why hasn't Eli gone to the Magic Castle? And the reason was quite simple. I've never been to the Magic Castle. Michael and I have never met. This is only the second time we're seeing each other face to face on Zoom, but we've only corresponded by email. As he said, I did do one at the Magic Circle, but I'd been to the Magic Circle a dozen times and had been throughout the building and knew how it worked and all that. So when Michael came to me and said, I have a mystery that takes place within the Magic Castle, do you want to read it? And I read it and went, okay, well, this isn't an Eli Marks book, but the spine could be. The victim works, the way the murder happens works, the way it's solved will certainly work. It just needs to become an Eli Marks book. And so we back and forth via hundreds, a lot of emails. We tore the old book apart and came up with a new outline of all 23 or 24 chapters, what would happen in each one of them. That made it an Eli Marks book, adding Eli, adding Uncle Harry, adding other characters who we know from the previous 9 books, and also putting it all through Eli's eyes, which is a very specific way of looking at things. With that very detailed outline, Michael went off and he would write chapter 1 because I wanted the person who knew the most about the castle to take the first pass at it so that the castle stuff was really, really baked in. And then I would just rewrite it to be more like an Eli Marks book. And as I told him recently, by about halfway through, he pretty much figured out the voice, and I was just tweaking and adding my own stuff, my own jokes, but it didn't take that much to take what he had written and make it sound like Eli Marks. He was pretty well there. I don't think I have particularly uh, outstanding style, but Eli does have a voice, and I'm pretty good at writing that voice. And by the end of this process, Michael's pretty good at it too. And the end result is anybody reading it would look at it and not, if they didn't know there were two names on the front, they'd say, "Oh, this is just a normal Eli Marks book," and they'd also look at it and say, "John must have spent a lot of time at the castle because it is sort of it's part mystery, part tour of the castle. If you've never been there, you're going to be amazed by the things you learn. And if you have been there, you're going to go, oh, yeah, yeah, yep, that's right. Yeah, you got to turn left there. And yep, that's exactly where the
Mhm.
exit is. And yeah, and that's all Michael.
And that
It's
was
very easy to get lost in the Magic Castle. It's very easy.
I'll take your word for it. I've never been.
Yeah, it's up and down and around. Yeah.
and that was the goal, to try and match John's voice or all the characters' voices, as well as feature the Magic Castle. And it's one of those books that you can hopefully you can read it and then, like I said, go through the entire Magic Castle. Oh, this is where everything happened, or this is where the murder happened, and this is where he solved that, or this is where he talked to each of the characters.
Yeah, and what Michael brought was one thing I've always strived for and have been successful at so far in the books is that even though I'm not a magician, I've worked hard to get all the magic right. I have a couple magicians who have helped make sure that I get the magic right, particularly Scott Wells out of Austin, Texas, has been a huge help in tweaking that. And I knew that it had worked when I got an email from Teller of Penn and Teller saying, I read the book and you got the magic absolutely right. And I thought, okay, that's great. But I can't do that with the Magic Castle. Michael's going to have to do that.
Yeah, no pressure.
So was it hard? I mean, did you guys ever disagree about anything, or how did your collaboration work? Just flow?
Well, there's that, but I'm the senior partner in it. I mean, I'm allowed to say no, Eli wouldn't say that. And I think I said that a few times. No, Uncle Harry would not say that. No, Eli would not say that. And Michael go, okay, and we'd change it. Because it's my world and he's just a guest in it and he understood that. So no, um, there were lots of emails back and forth and lots of,
Mhm.
tweaking this, tweaking that. But on the whole, like I say, once we got halfway through, we just breezed through it.
Yeah, we just brought that up recently. We've done quite a few interviews, and like, well, how was it like co-authoring this book? And that's a we checked our egos at the door. John has many published works. I have many published works, and just to come together, it's like we just want to have a really good story. And
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely, as a senior partner, it's like, yeah, it's your characters, not trying to usurp that at all. It'd be wonderful. I felt it more of like a puzzle or challenge. Can I fit this into?
Mhm.
And part of the process was, can I write a chapter, or each chapter is, can I write this that he did not have to tweak anything? Did I get that voice correct?
Mhm.
And
And you did.
it
You
was
did.
quite
I I,
easy.
I
We
think
had a good time.
in 5 years, when we look back on it, I don't think either one of us will be able to know for sure unless it has something to do with a specific castle reference. But when it comes to the jokes and the dialogue, I don't think we're going to know who did what.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that was
That's
fun.
very cool.
Yeah, it is
Mhm.
very cool.
Yeah, no drama, no drama.
Correct. We kept the drama on the page. Absolutely.
Yes, and the murdering on the page as well.
Yes.
Well, what's the premise of the book? I mean, what's the major crime in question
Well,
that
this is
Eli has to straighten out in this one?
Michael. I'm going to try to do it this first time I've said it out loud, so correct me if I go astray. Eli and his uncle Harry are visiting the Magic Castle because a longtime acquaintance of Harry's, a guy named Mason Drexel, is performing, and he very rarely performs. And when he does, it's always amazing. And he's saying this is going to be his final tour. The night there at the castle, which is going to be his final night, and he announces from the stage. He rolls a safe on stage and says, "All my secrets are in this safe, and at the end of the show, I'm going to open the safe and burn all the secrets." And then he dies on stage, and Eli becomes the primary suspect and has to spend the rest of the
Ah,
book trying to convince the homicide detective who's moving through the Magic Castle, that he is in fact not a suspect or a person of interest, that he had nothing to do with it. But it sort of looks like he, it's he's the only suspect available at that point, so that's who the homicide detective goes after. Did I miss anything, Michael?
No, that sums it up. It's enough intrigue for you to say, well, he couldn't have done it, or could he? And
Yeah.
then, but one thing that we did do, and we did discuss this, we love to have the clues there that the reader can truly solve the mystery. We've read many a mysteries, probably including Kathleen and Doug in this, where you've read the mystery, and at the very end, the very last chapter, this is who did it, and you're like, nah, that couldn't have happened. But this one, as you think back, you see all the clues. It was right there. And one of my favorite types of magic is magic hiding in plain sight. It was there the entire time. You just didn't notice it.
Things are
Love
never as
that.
they seem, are they?
No, they're
Yeah.
not.
When you flashed on that, him dying on stage, I just flashed on. I remember the great comedian Dick Shawn,
Yeah.
remember? And he
Yeah.
did that show, the one-man show called the second greatest entertainer in the world or something like that. And he dropped dead on stage.
He laid
And the
out on
audience
stage.
thought it
Yeah.
was part of the act because he was crazy. And they started laughing and clapping and cheering, and he didn't move.
And his son jumped up. His son was in the audience and
Yeah.
recognized something was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing happened to Albert Brooks's father, who was
Right.
a famous comedian. He was doing a roast and he died right after giving his portion of the event.
So what's now? I mean, are you guys planning on doing another collaboration after this one, or is this one and done, or
Excellent
Uh,
question. We have not actually brought that up, but Doug, you know me, I've got ideas, and John, you know, with all the things that went back and forth. How about this? How about that? I've got ideas. So we haven't even discussed that
no,
yet. I have
no,
an idea or two that I'll pitch to him later. Right now, we're just focusing on the launch of the book,
sure.
doing book signings, interviews, the whole marketing process of twisting the aces.
yeah.
So
When does
tell
it
us,
come out?
It'll be officially launched on July 15th. It'll be
Okay,
available on all your normal online sites for buying stuff,
cool.
or
It's a
if
great
you
cover.
prefer bookstores, ask your bookstore and they can order it for you.
Cool. July
fantastic.
15th. Perfect.
Great. So we'll get this up right away so that we can help.
Thank you.
So Michael Varma and John Gaspard, it's been great to have you guys. You're fantastic interviews. We'll have to have you back. John, you're already a returning champion. So
Mhm.
we'll have to be bringing you guys back with whatever you do next. So looking forward to it. And Doug, let me throw it back to you.
Yeah, well, we hope you guys do collaborate again, and I'm glad that there was no blood drawn. But then again, you're 1,000 miles apart, so
Yeah.
it makes it a little difficult. By way of full disclosure, Michael lives like a lob wedge from me. Just hit it over a couple of trees, it'd come right down his chimney.
Look out the window and see you over there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I thank you both for being here. This was fantastic. I hope the book is very successful. I think it will be. It's a great series, and I think hopefully a great addition to it. And we will help spread the word.
Thank you.
So we appreciate everybody watching us. Click the thumbs up because we want to know that you like us and that we can keep doing this. And so this has been the Outliers YouTube and podcast series. And as you know, we will be back with more interviews. So until then, keep reading, keep writing, keep having fun, and don't get caught.